you have just been back from your journey, your expedition to the Amazon, and it's ready for TV, right?
It is
We
very
expect to
exciting.
see the series now in Bulgaria. Mhm.
Yes.
We haven't seen it yet, to be honest. So, can you tell us what is most exciting about it?
Yeah, I think the most exciting part about this is just everything that comes with it in terms of, it's probably one of the last remaining true world first journeys that we were actually also able to capture. It's very rare now. Everything's been done. Now people are doing speed records. So this is, being dropped in the greenest country on the planet, potentially one of the wildest countries and most unexplored, and literally searching for a source that hasn't been mapped before. And then a journey of traveling from source to sea, taking 37 days and coming across wildlife that have potentially not even seen a human before, based on their reaction from the zoologists who were with us, to gathering fish to stay alive along the way. We're talking big piranhas to even bigger wolffish to stingray, in order to stay alive, albeit we did lose 13 kilograms. And so I think it's just the absolute beauty of the Amazon at its most raw, whilst undertaking an extreme endeavor of attempting to become the first to travel the river and the fastest team to summit the peak, the highest peak in Suriname. So yeah, we really kept the cameras rolling and tried to capture as much as we possibly could.
How long was the expedition itself?
It was altogether 37 days, and we
37.
went 34 days without seeing a another human.
Another human. How
Exactly.
did you pick up the place you wanted to explore?
I was actually
I mean, you
contacted.
knew it was unexplored and still it had to be, in a way, accessible,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So I was contacted by someone on social media who has lived out in Suriname for 12 years, and they're pretty much the face of logistics, fixing, and adventure. And they've led lots of different TV shows in the past all over the country. They know the country very well, have had training from the indigenous as well that live out in Suriname. And they approached me with this idea of
Mm-hmm.
the Kopanam River. And so once they set up the idea of the Kopanam and the country itself and the highest mountains and all of these sort of facts and figures, I was instantly hooked. I realized that I'm with the team who can make it happen because they know Suriname so extremely well. They know the ins and outs. They know how we go about getting dropped as close as we can to the source. It still took 7 days for us to find the source of the river once we were dropped off. We were dropped quite far away just because the jungle is so impenetrable, and it's so closed off. It's hard to find a place where you can land. But as soon as they reached out with their expertise and experience and knowledge of the country, with an idea of something that potentially hadn't been done before, I was instantly hooked and excited because I had never been to the
Yes.
continent before, and I've always wanted to go to South America.
Did you have an ultimate goal before starting this expedition, and did you reach it, or it turned out to be something else?
I mean, it turned out to be something even better than I could have planned or imagined, really. It started off as this cool adventure that I would love to do, to then becoming a Guinness World Record involved, too, to then partnering with Cher, the pop singer, and her foundation called Free the Wild,
Mm-hmm.
in order to log the wildlife and their reaction to humans throughout our journey and pass this information onto Free the Wild because they're all about not exporting wildlife and keeping them away, keeping them outside of bars and leaving them where they belong, which is of course in the wild. So we were documenting all sorts from a jaguar that we actually met face to face in the wild that the zoologists say potentially has never nor will ever see another human being again. That's how remote we were. And there's no indigenous in that area. There used to be, but they've moved over to bordering countries. So there's actually no tribes, unless there's undiscovered tribes, of course. And so, and to the capybara, we learned that they aren't actually nocturnal species like the rest of the world know them as. Close to the towns and cities, humans have scared them into becoming nocturnal due to hunting. Whereas where we were in the wild, the capybara, they sleep at night and they wake up and roam during the day. They're not scared of anything, so they've not been forced into doing something that isn't naturally what they normally do. And so we had all of this that I just really wasn't expecting, as well as the challenges. We came across a waterfall 15 meters high that wasn't on any maps. It hadn't been mapped before. It's this
Mhm.
unnamed waterfall, not on any
Did you give it
satellite.
a name?
We kind of left it up to the Surinamese. We thought, out of respect, we passed
Yes,
this
I
information
see.
to the Surinamese, and we let them, do what they want with it effectively. Give them the longitude, latitude coordinates, and yeah, if they can put it on the map, that would be amazing because then that we put it and they can call it whatever they like to call it. But I think the fact that it's not on any maps is just mind blowing. In this day and age, it was huge. And so yeah, there was just so much that happened that we could have only hoped for, really, and wished for. So it turned out
How,
much bigger.
yes, how did you fight exhaustion? Uh,
Yes.
how did
Yeah,
you
major,
sleep there?
yeah, major challenges in terms of the physical exertion and just working in the Amazon. We lost 13 kilograms during the first 2 weeks of the expedition because we were no longer on the river, so we couldn't catch any fish. We were in the jungle relying on rations and lentils. Um, our teammate Matt, he was stung by the most venomous scorpion in Suriname, so we were worried how his body would react to the venom. But of course, the challenge there is it's a closed up canopy, and evacuation wouldn't have been possible because we need the helicopter to physically land. It's not the helicopter that can throw down the rope. So, if there's anything like spider bites or scorpion stings or snake bites or a stingray sting, if they do get infected, the cuts, and we do need evacuation, our biggest worry is that we're out in the middle of the jungle in a closed canopy where evacuation would have potentially been impossible at some parts. So that was one of the biggest threats, I would say, and something that we always had in the back of our mind. We were very scared with that matter. Um, but I mean, yeah, we had a bacteria infection that spread amongst us. We were eaten alive by the ticks. There were so many
Yeah.
ticks, spiders, ants. We'd have army ants, completely strip our camp of all insects, which was pretty good. But also, if you're involved, then they'll crawl up you and start biting you. So you have to, these army ants had full grown men running into the riverbank, hiding from these ants that would just take over camp in their millions. And so yeah, and then another challenge was finding the food.
And
But
sleeping? Did you sleep in turns or?
yeah, we slept in hammocks, so we would just hang the hammock from tree to tree, and then put tarp over the top in case it rained. In fact, speaking of the trees, one of the biggest threats was actually falling trees. I think a lot of people think it's going to be a jaguar or an anaconda or the caiman. Often nights we were washing and bathing in the river right next to caiman. But actually, the biggest threat was probably the trees, because if one
Mhm.
of them falls, and there's thousands every day that do fall, and that lands on you, you and your whole team and whole camp are done. And we would hear them falling around as they sounded like lightning strikes hitting the ground.
Oh.
They would wake you up in the middle of the night. Very scary, the trees falling because they're so huge out there.
Mhm. Well, what was your most valuable piece of equipment?
The machete.
Let me check.
Yeah, the machete, we would use the machete to, there was no paths out there, of course, so we have to make our own path. And then within a few days, that path that we created is simply all grown over again. So even if we turn back and walk down that same path, we've still got to hack the same route. But also, it would help us to fish. We would go at the riverside and fish would come in, stingray, piranha, they would come to the riverbank to sleep. With a head torch at nighttime, you can see the reflection of their eyes, and you just, go in with your machete, and are able to eat that night. And so I would say the machete was probably the most top three valuable items.
And the other two?
The other two, I'd say your fire flint. Um, your fire flint to make quick, easy fire. And then I would say water filter bottle, but we were actually drinking from the river directly just because it was so fresh. So maybe I would say the hammock because that was
Mhm.
just that offered protection from ticks, leeches, mosquitoes, the elements, whether it's raining or not. That was the hammock was our little, if there was any luxurious items that we had with us, it would be the hammock. As
Mhm.
how unluxury that is, it would probably still be the hammock.
Well, do you think this area, you say it's still uncharted, but do you think it's environmentally threatened? Did you see any threats?
It's actually, I'm really happy to say it's not. It's not right now. So there's no illegal loggers in that area, and especially where we were dropped off in Suriname Central Reserve. And so it's a protected area, which is amazing. So, there was no trees being knocked down, illegal logging, there was no illegal wildlife poaching. Um, Suriname have done a really good job at protecting the true wild spaces in Suriname. And it's the greenest country on earth for a reason. 93% of the country is just utter jungle, pure rainforest. Whereas unfortunately its neighboring countries, there's a lot of illegal logging, a lot of flattened land there now. So I hope it's not a matter of time before Suriname faces this kind of stuff. Right now, they're doing an amazing job, but I do know those areas, they can be slightly corrupt too. And if enough money is offered
Mm.
up and one section of the rainforest is given, I think then it's the snowball effect more and more. So along the way, as I made it really important to share on social media, the importance to enjoy the world we live in, but also to protect it,
And be alert,
show
yeah.
how pure these parts of the world are and how much they need protecting. There's still wild places out there that, with the right protection, can exist long into the future. Um, it's just with the right knowledge. So that was one of the a hugely beneficial thing with being dropped in the Amazon and still managing to have access every now and then to internet was to able share it was being able to share parts of the world that I think people have these lush jungles feature in their mind from when they were younger, but now the
Mhm.
reality is with a lot of South American countries there's a lot of nasty stuff going down. I think in Brazil where isn't it a number of football fields being in terms of size being flattened every day. That's not the case in Suriname. So to show these truly wild places where wildlife is just in its abundance, where it doesn't even know to be scared of humans. The jaguar that we came across, it didn't even know what we were. It was trying to figure us out. Didn't hadn't seen anyone like us before. It was just like stood there for 2 minutes. Normally they're difficult to see. And that was the best sighting that the lads had in 12 years of living in Suriname. They'd never seen a sighting of the capybara and the jaguar quite like that, where they just stay and they look. There's places like that do still exist, and Suriname is one of those for sure. And it needs to stay like that.
Are you already planning your next expedition or adventure?
Yes, of course.
Do you have a
Yeah.
destination?
Yes, I think the next one, I've got two in mind, but I do think the next one will be a land, air, and sea journey across Saudi Arabia, Oman, and the UAE. I think right through the heart, that would be amazing. And the Middle East, there's a lot of And yeah, I think it's one of those that features in a lot of people's minds. And when they go there, it's normally to the cities.
Hmm.
But I think to do something right through the heart and spend time with the locals who call it home and learn their ways, I think that would be a really, really special journey. And the other one would be potentially the Dominican Republic of the Congo in Africa. The jungle there is fascinating, really dangerous, so it needs to be done properly. But I think those two are probably the next focus of mine.
Thank you very much, Ash. Thanks
Well,
for
thank you so
sharing
much,
this
Maya.
with us, and good luck with your expeditions and the
You too.
show.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.